I think the general consensus is that, COVID, yes, has been here over 18 months, but there's still so much that we're learning. I think parents had lots of questions about protocols and how districts are handling things differently. And just the overall sense of that everybody is at a place where, if we're possible, can we all just get vaccinated and social distance and get through this? So I think that was all. I can't remember everything else, but that was the gist of it.
So that led into a discussion also about mandates, and I know that some of the other districts have been talking about that. So there's, of course, mask mandates, but then also mandates for vaccines. So Jason, can you talk about that a little bit for us?
Yeah, and I think that in a little bit of an update, as far as mandates go, last week, late last week, APS announced that it was going to mandate staff testing. Every staff member gets tested twice a week, and that is through our surveillance testing program, which means that APS will be providing thousands of tests every week for our staff to make sure that they're negative. One of the primary drivers of that was the fact that we noticed that, or not noticed, the data showed that 50% of our staff since July 15th that had tested positive for the virus were actually vaccinated. So what that indicates is that while vaccination status is pivotal and key to making sure that you stay out of the hospital, that you get severe illness, you can still get the virus, right? It doesn't prevent you from getting the virus. So we want to make sure that even those staff members, those teachers that are vaccinated, are getting tested to protect themselves, protect our students, and most importantly, make sure that they're not taking anything home to their families. So that's on the testing front, and then on the vaccine front, we're considering, our superintendent is looking at a vaccine mandate. I'll tell you, it's going to take a little bit of time for that to happen, just because the administration wants to make sure that they get it right. They don't want to lose staff members. They don't want to disrupt what's already happening. Surveys indicate that 81% of our staff are vaccinated in Atlanta Public Schools. So we want to make sure that we get the additional 19%, many of those folks vaccinated, and we'll do all that we can. I know there's been discussion across the state and across the country about student vaccine mandates. We're certainly not there yet. I think there's some question about whether you can legally require a student to get a vaccine that's not part of the Georgia Department of Health / Department of Education requirements. So I'm not sure that we're examining whether to add on to that because I'm not sure that that's legal. So for right now, I anticipate that school systems in the metro area and other metro areas in the state of Georgia will be looking at how if and when to mandate staff vaccinations. And I don't think that's going to be limited to school systems. I anticipate that we're going to see private companies and other governments mandating that in the coming weeks ahead.
Thank you. So I know Dr. Herring was mentioning, following the data on those decisions. So that's going to be really important. But the testing, I wanted to know if Gwinnett was doing that. And I also wanted Mr. Hutchins to talk about something, because you brought it up in a board meeting about just the availability of testing, or lack thereof, I should say. So if we can touch on that. But I want to hear from Gwinnett about what mitigation efforts they're doing.
As far as testing goes, I think we are exploring some opportunities there, as discussed in some of our business meetings, and this is, public, so folks can, access. But I think we are looking at some opportunities. One thing that I am very proud of is that our superintendents, intendants, you know, past and future, have leveraged the science and are listening to what CDC or local health departments and those recommendations on how to help ensure we reduce the transmission of the virus with our kids. One thing I did want to note was that, you know, and some of you all may have watched this on the news the other day, on how frequent, on the frequency, the increase of COVID being transmitted throughout our schools and the students acquiring it, and you know, many students are testing, you know, positive for the virus. One thing I found interesting, and the news actually reported this the other day, was that in some instances, some places where the masks are not required, it may be 1 in 43 students that have tested positive for the virus, or 1 in the 40s have tested positive for the virus. But Gwinnett, what they found was, because we do require masks, that 1 in 80 students were testing positive for the virus. So it seems, and we're a very large school system, you know, heavily populated.